Hulk Hogan is one of the biggest names to have wrestled in WWE. He dominated the 80s and 90s and is still somewhat of a household name. His domination in WWE, though, came at a cost. He apparently was very far from the all-American character that he portrayed on television. Behind the scenes, he was often scheming and politicking about how to continue to stay at the top of the wrestling business, no matter whose cost it came at. The legend is a Hall of Famer, but far from the same popular figure that he was back in the day because of quite a few stories that came out about him, including the entire adult film scandal where it turned out that he had been very openly racist on film. With that being said, he's still around and somewhat relevant today. In this video, we'll take a look at some of the wildest stories said about Hulk Hogan. It's interesting to note that he was involved in the telling of several stories of his. While his racism is well known, this will talk about his other stories. While Hulk Hogan's sex tape ruined the career of the superstar forever due to the racism, that was not all that it was contained to. Hogan was caught saying a homophobic slur while talking about a storyline that VH1 wanted him to do for his reality show, Hogan Knows Best. VH1 wanted him to go back to his childhood home, but Hogan was less than complimentary about the person who lived in the old house. He used the slur to describe the person who was living in his old home. If not for the starker racism, Hogan would have definitely been called out for his homophobia. Hulk Hogan has a lot of famous friends as a result of his time as an international superstar for WWE and WCW. One of those famous friends is none other than Layla Ali, the professional boxer and daughter of Muhammad Ali. Hogan once said in an interview on the Today Show, Layla Ali talked him out of committing suicide during a dark part of his life. This was during a time when his wife had left him and his son had been involved in a serious injury that left his friend seriously injured and suffering from brain damage. Nick Bolia had been 17 years old at the time and was arrested on charges of reckless driving after the car crash. Bolia was driving faster than 60 miles per hour in a 40 mile per hour zone. What was worse, he blamed the friend who was 22 years old for what happened. Hulk said, "I don't know what type of person John was or what he did to get himself in the situation." CNN documents Hogan saying, "I know he was pretty aggressive and used to yell at people and used to do stuff." He would later apologize, saying he was trying to keep Nick calm. Hogan's son spent 8 months in Pinellas County Jail for the offense. He was going on a drug and alcohol binge and was in a dark place, considering taking his life. But this was the time that Ali made the call that saved his life. All of a sudden, the phone rang and it was Layla. She said, "Hey, what's going on? You're on the set. You're all depressed. We're worried about you. You going to be okay?" She called with no agenda, just to say hi and check on me. It snapped me out of it. At that moment, I switched gears. I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. Her voice saved my life. It really did. Hulk Hogan has been on the bad side of several superstars over his life thanks to his backstage politicking and other issues. However, there are some stars that you should just never get on the bad side of. Harley Race is one of those men. There's an urban legend about Hulk Hogan, a story that has been told several times by several people. In the late 80s and 90s, the territory wrestling was dying out thanks to Vince McMahon and his team. Naturally, Hogan was a big part of this. Quite a few wrestlers took offense, and Harley Race was included among them. McMahon went to do a show in Kansas City, which was Harley's territory at the time. He was quite upset with them invading territories, and he allegedly burned the ring down before the show started. Though, when WWE put up a new ring, Race then asked about Hogan. He waited for Hogan to come out of the bathroom, and as soon as he did, he put a gun against Hogan's belly. Hogan immediately told Harley everything he wanted to know about Vince McMahon and claimed that everything was McMahon's idea. Nothing happened, thankfully, and no one was shot. When Batman and Robin came out, it was a big moment for everyone. After the success of the last two films, there was a lot of expectation going into it, but when it came out, it was a disaster. Universally hated by fans for not only being campy, but also having weird dialogue and extremely weird costume design that had George Clooney with the infamous bad nipples. One of the major villains of the film was none other than Arnold Schwarzenegger. Mr. Freeze, the tragic villain, who only wanted to save his wife but turned evil to do so, the character was one that a lot of fans expected more from. While Arnold's version version was rather funny, as it turns out it might have been very different. Before Arnold, apparently Hulk Hogan was considered for that role. While Hogan is known for not being a good actor, in fact, most of his movies have received extremely horrible reviews, it's still fun to think of what Hogan would have done in the comically campy and bad role as Mr. Freeze. However, got to survive without his name associated with the movie, though he would ruin it himself later through other actions. There was a period of time during which it was difficult to say if Hulk Hogan was immortal or not. He certainly acted that way, and the way he would overcome all his obstacles in the American way made fans think there was no way that he could lose. Given the fact that he'd regularly be featured in commercials, it was thought that he was invincible. He would tell kids what to eat and drink to become strong like him, saying that Hulk Hogan, the one that could beat anyone who came at him and slam Andre the Giant himself, being reduced to what he is now is sad. The recent reports about his health have been really worrying. Hogan has gone through more than 10 different operations in recent years, and it shows once again that the punishment that the athletes suffer is real. They were needed because Hogan had to do that famous leg drop of his thousands of times. His body smashing on the mat in the same position put damage on not only his spine, but also his hip. As a result, he is no longer able to move in the same way as before. After a recent surgery, there were rumors that Hogan was paralyzed and that he could not move without a cane. After the procedure, his representative made it clear that he was making a good recovery and that he was finally able to walk without a cane. The scare had come after Kurt Angle provided a health update on Hogan, saying Hogan had his back surgery again, he had the nerves cut from his lower body, he can't feel his lower body, so he has to walk with a cane, which is, that's pretty serious, man. I mean, I really feel for Hogan. Thankfully, now he appears able to feel his body again and is moving around, so that's an improvement on where he was before. Hulk Hogan lies about a lot of things, and this is one of the wilder stories that he told about himself. He said that he was once offered a gig to play in a band. This by itself would not be that unbelievable, but as it turns out, he is a musician and played with the bass guitar when he was younger. He played for a band named Ruckus, and wrestlers saw him play for Ruckus before he became a wrestler himself. However, when it comes to his days as a player for Metallica, while he said that he turned them down, in reality, it just never happened. Lars Ulrich called him out as a liar, saying that this had never happened, and that Hogan was lying. He then changed his story, saying that he applied for that position, but he had not heard back. Quite an about turn for the Hulkster. I heard that Metallica needed a bass player, and brother, I was writing letters, made a tape of myself playing, and sent it to their management company. Kept making calls, trying to get through. I tried for 2 weeks and never heard a word back from them either. I was hoping for a call from them, but never got one. All the haters were like, "You never auditioned for Metallica." Of course I didn't, but I tried. Hulk Hogan has a history of being far from the most faithful husband. While he portrayed the American way in his character and being an overall babyface for the most part, in his real life, he was facing quite a few issues. Linda Hogan filed for divorce from her husband in 2007, and the fact that this had happened had not reached Hogan from Linda herself. In fact, he was told by a reporter that his wife had filed for a divorce. He told St. Petersburg Times that he had no idea that his wife had filed for the divorce and was informed about it after a reporter saw that the Pinellas County court record showed that the paperwork for the divorce had been 4 days previously. He even thanked the reporter, saying, "Thank you for the great information." When asked his thoughts, "My wife has been in California for about 3 weeks. Holy smokes. Wow, you just knocked the bottom out of me." Quite a difficult way of finding out that the life he had was about to change completely. Imagining Hulk Hogan as anything but a top-tier wrestler is difficult. The superstar has been around for a long time, and while he is retired now, he is pretty synonymous with wrestling. Most fans have been watching him wrestling growing up, and imagining that he had a career other than wrestling at any point is quite difficult. During his appearance on Late Night with Conan O'Brien in 2008, Hogan dropped an unbelievable fact on the audience. He said that he had been working as a bank teller before he became a wrestler, though soon enough he found out that life as a bank teller was not for him, and he only lasted at the job for 2 days before he left. He would quit, and then later on found his calling when he became the wrestler he is famous for being today.